Welcome back to Mostly Mets. I'm Jimmy Mack, and today what I'd like to do is go over the previous series against the Toronto Blue Jays, and also preview the series coming up starting tonight against the Marlins. Also, if you're new here, please subscribe, give me a like, and comment whatever you'd like. Anyway, getting into this first series of the year, and actually before we do that, it just came down late last night that the Toronto Blue Jays have extended Vladdy Jr. for the next 14 years and $500 million. And I'm hearing everyone say overpay, whatever. Listen, they needed to do that deal. This doesn't really have to do with the Mets because if you've watched me in the last month or two, I've basically been saying the Mets aren't even going to be interested in Vladdy Jr. after this year, just because I think the contract was going to be too much. If you heard Stearns and Cohen talk, they say you can't carry two huge contracts like Soto and Vladdy Jr. would be for long-term, 14, 15 years. I knew it wasn't going to be the Mets. I'm happy he's back with Toronto. I know it's an overpay, but listen, they needed to keep their star there. They needed their face of the franchise, and it's great for them. Moving on, this has nothing to do with the Mets. Just wanted to bring it up because it had to do with the Blue Jays. Mets just played the Blue Jays, and we got to see Vladdy Jr. Anyway, good series overall. They got the big win in the home opener, 5-0. I think that was probably the best game of the series. They were able to hit a little bit. The pitching was good. Tyler McGill was really good again. Got into the sixth inning. Obviously started to struggle a little bit in the sixth, as is what kind of happens with him. He's kind of a 5-inning pitcher. We've seen that in the past. Hopefully that doesn't stay forever, but at this point that might just be what he is, which is fine. If he's a fourth or a fifth starter and he's giving you 5 innings and giving up no runs, or even if he gives you 1 or 2 runs, that's not a bad thing. To have a guy like that, a solid, starting piece, we'd take that from Tyler McGill. I don't see that being an issue. But overall, really good series, especially out of the bullpen. Really, the bullpen has been the best part of this team so far. And we all expected them to have a pretty good bullpen. Maybe Diaz a year removed from the injury, a year where he kind of struggled last year, and now he's fully healthy and fully into the season. Those other guys probably played a lesser role, but I don't think we expected it to be this good so far. You look at Brazoban, who's pitched all these innings, and he's good for 2 or 3 innings out there every time he comes out of the bullpen. He gives up nothing. That's crazy to me. This isn't a guy we even expected to be on the team. Max Kranick, who in the start of the spring, we all thought maybe he was a roster guy, maybe not. We'll see what happens with him. And he's been the same as Brazoban. He comes in for 2 innings, 3 innings, and just mows everyone down. That's so important for this team so far this year because the starters have not been able to go deep into games. So they've needed relievers to pitch multiple innings. Now you have a guy in Dednell Nunez who's going to be ready to come up soon, and you don't really have anyone that you can send down, and he's another guy who they are stretching out to pitch multiple innings. So I think that's a lot of the Mets' plan this year. I said it in a video during the offseason when they said they were stretching out, Kranick for multiple innings and Brazoban for multiple innings and Nunez for multiple innings. I said it back then, they know that their pitching staff isn't a staff that's going to go 7, 8 innings. They know that they're 5, maybe 6 inning pitchers, and they're going to need some length out of their bullpen. And so far it's worked out. Now, I see that maybe being an issue down the road. You're starting pitching, not giving you enough innings. Your bullpen's going to get worn out. We'll see how that all goes. But yeah, the bullpen was the big win in this series, but there were some other keys as well. Alonso has stayed hot. He hit a home run in the first game of the series, and then he's gotten his hits in the last couple games. So he's stayed hot. His at-bats look amazing. He's not striking out and flailing at bad pitches, and overall he's just looked good. Offensively, the problem is they just haven't gotten to the point where everybody's clicking at the same time. So Alonso's really been carrying the team, So really the good in this series, Alonso hitting well. You have Winker with his big night in Game 2, where he hit 2 doubles and a triple, and the last triple being the one that tied the game in the 8th when the offense just looked lifeless, and he injected some life into it, and they ended up winning the game. So great job by Winker, great job by Alonso. McGill had a great game, and really just the bullpen. The bullpen is what has it's really been the best part of this season. I don't know that they'd be as good as they are without as good as this bullpen's been. Now, I will say they haven't played great offensive teams yet, and if you look at even the Blue Jays, who are a good offensive team, they haven't hit yet. Vladdy Jr. has no home runs. Santander has no home runs. And the Mets were able to keep them in check in this series, which is what I was really worried about coming into it, that those guys would get hot, or one of them would get hot and completely change the series. But overall, really good stuff in this series. All right, now if you're going to talk about the good, you also have to talk about the bad. And it's not my favorite thing to do after just sweeping a series. I like to try to stay positive, but there are some things that are troublesome for this lineup right now, especially the lineup. And that's really, you look at Vientos, still looks completely lost at the plate. He did get a hit yesterday, but he has looked pretty lost. And I worry because sophomore slump is a real thing. Not that I'm saying he's a bad player or that he's not going to eventually be fine, but we were counting on this guy for a big year, and so far he hasn't delivered. And he's frustrated. You could see he's frustrated. He's slamming his bat. He's breaking things. He's not happy with himself or his performance right now. He seems to have gotten a lot of the defensive struggles that he had, in the last Marlins series out of his system. But he needs to start hitting, and he's really just been floundering. He looks like Pete looked last year for a lot of the year. He just hasn't performed at the level that we thought. Still early. I still have faith that he can be fine. But I do think we have to start to worry, was last year an aberration, or maybe this is just a sophomore slump? Pitchers have figured him out. That could be possible as well. Obviously, another huge hole in the lineup right now is Brett Baty. He needs to go. I'm sorry, I was a Baty proponent before the season started. I put out a video right before the season that said he could be the star of the Mets this season. I was wrong, okay? I was wrong. I'm sick of it. I fell for it again. And I'm over it. He does not look like a major league player. He's getting beat on fastballs. That's not something you expect to see out of him, just getting beat on fastballs. And Mendoza said it in his post-game press conference yesterday. He just can't catch up with anything. His timing is off. He's grounding everything to second base or striking out. That's his whole offense. Hopefully he proves me wrong again, and I have to go back on my opinion, but right now I have zero confidence when he comes up to the plate that he'll do anything positive. He's just a strikeout or a double play. That seems to be what he is, and he showed that in this series. He was not good. It's time to start Acuna and see what you have with him. And really, the only negatives for me so far in this series were the length of the pitching that you got, the starting pitching that you got. Canning went 4 innings. You only got 4 2/3 out of Peterson. Now, I understand Peterson was dealing with a bit of an illness. He said he was nauseous and he felt like he got punched in the stomach. So he kind of lost it there. But he wasn't pitching that well before then. So I don't know that he just didn't have his best stuff yesterday. I'm not worried about Peterson. He still didn't give up any runs, or he gave up 1 run, I believe. He didn't give up much of anything, but he was wild. He was walking guys. I was at the game, so I couldn't exactly see the strike zone. I don't know if he was getting squeezed. I was hearing a lot of groans from the crowd, so I don't really know. I didn't watch replays of his pitching, but he just didn't look sharp at all. He didn't look like Peterson, and he has those games where he just gets a little wild. But overall, yeah, the length of the starting pitching has not been great. It's going to wear out the bullpen eventually. The bullpen just can't compete like this forever. It's not going to continue all season if they have to fill 5 innings a game, 6 innings a game. It's not going to last. They're going to get burnt out, especially because they all pitch multiple innings. And really the worst thing about this team so far has been 6 through 9 in the lineup. The 6 through 9 in this lineup in this series was a combined 5 for 37 with 12 strikeouts. I'm sorry, I understand we have injuries, and that's what I'm banking on right now. But you just have, after whoever's hitting 5th, whether it's Winker or Marte or whatever, you just have no confidence in anyone else in the order. You look at, obviously the 6th hitter, Vientos, has done nothing. Then you go to Baty. He's done nothing. Now, Terens, he's out with a little bit of an injury. You have a little bit of faith in Terens when he's out there. He's been one of our better hitters, honestly, this year, the most consistent guys. So I'm fine with that. But when you have Senger in there, yes, he got a hit yesterday, and he's done pretty well for himself in very limited time. But you don't have any faith that Senger's going to do anything. And then Siri is so far just not done anything. He's very exciting on the bases. If he can get on base, great. He's going to be exciting and he's going to score runs, and that's awesome. But he's got to get on base. He never gets on base. I mean, he has walked a little more than normal. He had 2 walks yesterday or the day before. One of those games he had 2 walks, which was crazy to me. But he's a strikeout, a home run, or a walk. That's really what he is at this point. And it's more strikeouts than anything else. So I just have no confidence in the bottom of that lineup right now. You could put whoever you want down there. Once McNeil and Alvarez comes back, yes, then we have a deeper, longer lineup that's going to hopefully perform better and make us more consistent. But it's just a black hole right now. If those top 4 guys aren't hitting, those top 4 or 5 guys aren't hitting, we're not going to win because you can't count on anyone in the bottom of that order to hit. Now, hopefully, Acuna, maybe he gets some at-bats and maybe he can provide something. I'm not that in love with Acuna either, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and dwell on all the bad, but after a series sweep, you should kind of feel better about your team. I don't feel that great about them right now. Sitting at 6-3, obviously that's great, but they haven't done enough to really show me that there's some juggernaut. Now, that can change tonight. They can go out and beat the Marlins 15-0 tonight, and I'll be like, okay, the offense finally started to click. But right now, I just don't have any real confidence in many players on this offense. All right, now I want to get into the next series, which does start tonight against the Marlins, and do a little preview of that. So in Game 1, we have Kodai Senga going against Beozo. Listen, at this point, I'm just looking to get a good quality outing out of Senga. He was pretty good in his first start. Didn't give you too much length, but he was good, and he at least came out of it healthy. Obviously, the errors hurt him. The Lindor errors hurt him in that game. So I think he probably would have gone deeper, and his line would have looked a little bit better had he not had that defense behind him. At the end of the day, I want to see 5 2/3, maybe 6 innings of 1-run baseball out of him and come out of the game healthy, feeling good, looking good, and that's what we need to see out of Senga. You should beat this Marlins team. If you're Kodai Senga, this is the perfect team for you because they're going to chase your ghost fork. You can throw it out of the zone, and they will chase it. So this is the perfect team for him to face. Hopefully he does well and stays healthy, and that's all we can really ask for at this point. Now in Game 2, we have Clay Holmes and Gillespie. We saw Gillespie last time we played the Marlins. He had a pretty good game, went 5 innings, only gave up 1 run. I think he had 6 strikeouts. He had a pretty good game. But now you're seeing him for the second time. This offense hopefully should feast off of him. He's not a great pitcher. He's never been that great. So I would love to see them really say, okay, we got this guy now. We know what he throws. They should be able to do that. This is a good enough offense where if they see a pitcher twice in a week, they should be able to hit him. That should just happen with Lindor, with Soto. Those guys need to feast on a guy like this. Holmes, you're just looking for a little bit more length, right? What you've seen with him as a starter so far this year is kind of what you saw with him as a reliever. Yes, the numbers look good, right? When you look at the line at the end, it doesn't look great, but the ERA looks fine, and maybe the wins or that all looks fine. But how you get there is kind of frustrating with Holmes. He's been a guy who's walked a lot. He's been wild, and it's just so different than what we saw in spring. In spring, he looked dominant. He was in the strike zone. He just looked better than anyone else. And so far this season, it hasn't turned out that way. I'm not saying I'm done with him and he's not going to be any good, but I just need him to show a little length. Go out and give you 6 innings. Give the bullpen a little bit of rest. Let's go out there and dominate a bad team. The Marlins have played well this year, but they're not a good team. They're just not. So you need to go out there and perform well against them. Now in Game 3, we have Tyler McGill against Max Meyer. McGill obviously has been our best pitcher so far this year, and who would have thought we'd be sitting here saying that Tyler McGill through 2 starts is 2-0 with an ERA under 1. Most people would have called you crazy if you said that before the season started, but he's been great. He's controlled. Has controlled the strike zone. He's he's just pitched really well. I have no issues with how McGill's pitching so far, and that's crazy to me. But he's always a guy who's had talent. He's always a guy who you said, I don't know why this guy isn't better than he is. He has good stuff. He throws hard. The pitching coaches rave about him, and he gets chance after chance after chance. A lot like a guy like Beatty, right? There's a lot of similarities there between McGill on the pitching side and Beatty on the offensive side, where you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for this guy to be good. Now, McGill was never a top prospect, so it's a little bit different, but there's something different about McGill this year. Maybe it's a confidence. He's throwing more strikes, and he just looks like a little bit of a different pitcher. I'm not saying he's an ace or ever going to be, but can he be a number 3 or 4 starter? Maybe. Maybe he can. A really good, solid rotation piece for you. I don't see why he couldn't be that. Starting pitchers don't have to go 9 innings anymore. If he can give you 5 innings of 1 run every time out, sign me up. With this offense, if you get that and you have a bullpen that's been as good as this one has, you're going to win 105 games, if every pitcher gives you that. So I really think at the end of the day, this is a good matchup for him. And really, honestly, this is a perfect matchup for him because they haven't seen him yet. He pitched in the first game against the Blue Jays. So I'm really excited for these pitching matchups. I think they're going to favor the Mets. And overall, I'm excited about McGill most of all. All right, now I want to get into what I think are the keys for the Mets in this series. Listen, Lindor, if you look at what's been going on, if you're watching every at-bat, he's starting to heat up a little bit. Lindor is a slow starter, but then once he starts to get those base hits and he starts to work longer at-bats and he stops chasing and he starts going the other way like he did yesterday, it didn't result in a hit, but he got a nice opposite field. He hit it to the warning track out in left field while he was on the left side of the plate. He's starting to heat up a little bit. So I could definitely see him breaking out sometime soon. Now, also, it could just be a good couple games against some pitchers that he was favorable against, sure. But he looks like he's starting to break out, and that's going to be a key to the series. If he breaks out and Pete stays hot, this could be a nice, easy series for the Mets. They could score a lot of runs. Another guy who I think has been really pressing, and that's Soto. I think Soto's getting a little bit of a pass. But listen, fans are starting to get a little bit uneasy about it because while I was at the game yesterday, I heard a lot of people when Soto was grounding out or striking out, saying $765 million for this, $800 million for this. And listen, I'm not there yet, and nobody should be there yet. We're, less than 10 games into a new season. And I think he's just pressing. I think for those reasons that he's getting those things yelled at him, he thinks that he needs to be a superstar. He needs to be the guy who signed that contract. And he is. If he just acts like himself, he will be. You also hear comments after the game from guys like Lindor and Nimmo basically saying, listen, Soto gets 1 or 2 pitches to hit a game. They're giving him the Barry Bonds treatment. He doesn't get anything to hit. So now Pete being hot behind him in the lineup, hopefully he starts to get more to hit. We'll have to see how that all goes. But overall, if you're not getting anything to hit, just take your walks and then let Pete do what he does. And then you're going to start to get more to hit because now you can't face Pete because he's tearing the cover off the ball. Just take your walks. That's fine. Get on base. That's all we ask. Be yourself. Do what you can do. And stop pressing and trying to be what you were last year, 40 home runs. And we don't need that. Just be yourself. Be the Juan Soto that was signed to that contract. Don't try to be something more than that. And that's going to be a key. See if he can calm down and just play the game the way he knows how and he has for the last 6 years. All right, another key, I think, is Holmes and Senga, and I talked about it earlier, need to give some length. Now, I know Senga's still probably on a pitch count. I don't know that he's going to go over 80 or 85 pitches, but just get into the 6th inning. Give at least 5 innings. Get into the 6th maybe. Even if you don't go the full 6, just give a little bit of length. Now you don't have an off day in between series. You don't have an off day till Thursday, in which you're going to be flying out to the West Coast. So Senga and Holmes need to give some length. They need to give that bullpen a little bit of rest because they're overworked. And it's early in the season, so I think they can handle the work, but that's going to kill you over time. So we need a little length out of the starters. I think McGill will give it to you at this point. I think he's good for at least 5 innings, and maybe he'll get 6. That third time through the order sometimes gets them, but 5 2/3, 6 innings out of McGill, I'm fine with. You need to get 5 2/3 or 6 innings at least out of Clay Holmes and Senga. That will help them so much going forward. One of the other keys, listen, Vientos needs to start showing some life. I don't need him to take over the series and hit 5 home runs in the series and dominate and drive in 10 runs. That's not what I'm looking for. But he needs to show that he's an actual baseball player at this point. He's if it wasn't for Brett Baty, Vientos would be getting a lot more crap than he is right now, because Baty, at least, we didn't expect anything out of. But that spring kind of gave us some hope. Vientos, we expected big things out of. He hasn't done anything. So he really needs to just get on track. I'm not talking about going out there and smashing the ball and hitting 5 home runs in the series, but you have to do something. You have to show a sign of life. You have to get a couple hits. I know he got a couple hits in the last series. He wasn't terrible, but he doesn't look comfortable at the plate. His timing's off. He's swinging at everything. He just hasn't looked good. He's striking out way too much. We need to see a sign of life. We need to see something positive with Mark Vientos, and it hasn't happened yet. And honestly, the Mets offense might be a little shitty if we don't have Vientos in there being at least a good player. He doesn't have to be a great player, but at least be a good player. We need a good 6th hitter, and that he could be that. He just has to show some life. And really the last key, I would say, Baty needs to get less at-bats. We need to start moving towards Acuna. Now, like I've said in the past, I'm not a huge Acuna guy. I don't think he's going to be the star that a lot of people think that he will be because of his name. But at least he gives you better defense, right? And Baty hasn't been bad defensively. I'm not going to sit here and trash talk his defense. It's been fine. But Acuna gives you elite level defense, and he gives you speed. And his at-bats have not looked as bad as Baty's, right? He might not be tearing the cover off the ball, but he can at least put the bat on the ball and not hit into a double play. Listen, if he grounds it out to the shortstop, at least he has a chance to beat it out and not ground into a double play. So I think Acuna needs to start getting some more at-bats. Sit Baty down. And honestly, when McNeil is ready to come back, Baty's probably going to the minors anyway. But you need to, at this point, see what you have with Acuna and see what Acuna can give you and move away those at-bats from Brett Baty. I think Baty earned the first shot, and they've now given it to him. They've given him 9 games. And if this was in Kansas City or this was in, Cincinnati, yes, he'd get another 2 months to try to work his way out of it. This isn't that kind of team. This is a win-now team that plays in New York. You have to perform every day, every week, or you're going to be sent down, or you're going to be sat down. This is a team that has aspirations of winning. This isn't a small market team. This isn't Milwaukee. So I think in a lot of ways, Brett Baty has benefited from David Stearns being the general manager or player of baseball operations, president of baseball operations, because he still has that small market mentality where let's not give up on this guy. Let's keep it going. And that's helped Baty a lot, because a lot of New York GMs by now, or if Steve Cohen had his way to say about it, Baty would already be gone. But he keeps getting chance after chance. He blew this one. Listen, I know it's only 9 games in and he can make me eat my words, but he's not a major league player. He's not. He's shown enough this season to make me see that I was completely wrong about Baty, and I'm done with him. He's not a major league player. He's just not. All right, so just to wrap this up, I know a lot of this might have sounded negative, but I'm actually really excited. Listen, the Mets are 6-3. They just swept the Blue Jays, who came into the series at 5-2. They showed a lot in that last series, and now they're going to play a team that they should beat up on, right? They should be going into their next series at 9-3. Honestly, there's no reason they shouldn't sweep the Marlins. After just sweeping the Blue Jays at home, you have to sweep the Marlins at home too. I know that's a lot to ask. At that point, what would it be, 8 wins in a row? But this is a bad team. You got to go out there and win them. They're coming off a series in which they just split with the Braves, and the third game got rained out. But listen, I just don't think they're very good. So they need to go out there and perform and get the offense going. We've said it over and over again about this team. We're not worried about the offense. We were worried about the pitching. Well, now they have the best staff ERA in baseball, and their bullpen looks unhittable at this point. But their offense just hasn't clicked. And my fear is that now their offense is going to start to click, and their pitching is going to start to fall behind. I think the Mets have enough offense to overcome that, but they have to start hitting. You just have to. You can't expect this level of pitching all year from this staff. You just can't. Now, Manaea's setback, Montas, we don't know when he's got. So this is what you got for now. So I think at some point the pitching will start to fall off, and the offense needs to pick that up. And I think this series needs to start that. That's really all I got. I'm really not negative on this team, but I'd rather go into the negatives than really just accentuate the positives. You have to be critical where there is problems, and you have to be honest. You can't just be a head in the clouds fan who thinks everything's great. There's problems. Every team has problems, and we're no different. But yeah, if you're still here, please subscribe. Comment what you think their biggest issue is right now, or hey, maybe you think I'm wrong and I'm overreacting. Let me know. Give me a like, and yeah, until next time, let's go Mets.